Last Christmas Eve, I was sitting at my kitchen table at 6:10, alone in my dressing gown, eating cold spaghetti out of the pan with a wooden spoon because the credit card I usually use to feed 12 people was tucked in a drawer upstairs. My phone rang. Then it rang again. Then it rang 3 more times. By the third call, my mother-in-law's voice had stopped sounding like a woman who was criticising as a roast and started sounding like a woman who had realised the kitchen she was standing in was empty. By the 6th call, my husband was crying. My name is Lila. This is the story of how the family that ran on my labour for 11 years ran out of it, and what it looked like when the lights went off. By the way, I'm curious, what city are you listening from right now, and what time is it where you are? I'm in Brisbane, and it's a little before 9 at night here. To understand why my phone rang that night, you have to understand how Christmas worked in our house. It's not Christmas at my parents' house, Christmas at the Hendry house. The Hendry house was not a building, it was an agreement. Every year on the 25th of December, the Hendry family, which meant Margaret, my mother-in-law, her 2 sons, their wives, the 4 grandchildren, my sister-in-law Tanya's boyfriend, and an aunt nobody could quite place, met in my house. They ate food I bought on a table I dressed, in a kitchen I had cleaned the day before, in a lounge I had vacuumed that morning. They opened presents I had wrapped, drank wine I had chosen, and used serviettes I had folded into little fans because Margaret saw it on Pinterest in 2014 and decided it was now a tradition. The criticism started before the gravy every year. Every single year. The turkey was either too dry or too pink. The pavlova either collapsed or weeping. The vegetables were either school cafeteria or trying too hard. Once, in 2017, Margaret passed me a plate of honey carrots and said, "These are fine, I suppose." Don't pat yourself on the back though, Lillian. Pat yourself on the back when you can cook a proper roast like my mother could. My name isn't Lillian. I have never been Lillian. She has called me Lillian for 11 years. My husband Daniel has never once corrected her. I want to name what was happening then because I didn't have the vocabulary for it at the time. There is a phrase people use now, the mental load. It's the work nobody sees. The remembering of who is dairy-free and who is gluten-free and who believes they are gluten-free and who is just watching my carbs this week. The remembering of the aunt who only drinks Pinot Grigio and hates ice. The remembering of the nephew who will only eat white food. The remembering of which carving knife is the one that doesn't stick and where the good tablecloth is, and that the smoke alarm will beep at 6:15 if you forget to press the little button before you roast the almonds, and that Margaret likes the candles on the sideboard but not on the table, and that Tanya will absolutely announce at the table that she's brought a vegan option she bought at the supermarket 5 minutes before she arrived, and that Daniel will laugh at this as if it is a joke. That was my Christmas. 11 of them. Each one bought and cooked and cleaned and folded and remembered by me. Each one finished by Margaret saying something I would lie awake replaying in the dark at 2 a.m. The conversation I had with myself that year was not a grand one. It happened on the 3rd of November when I was sitting on the kitchen floor with a notebook, working out the budget for the December food shop. I've been doing the budget since July. I've been doing the budget since 2014. I had a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet had a tab called Margie's Potential Surprises because Margaret always noticed if you downgraded the cranberry sauce. I sat on the floor in November and I looked at the spreadsheet and I thought, if I give this another year, I will not recover from it. Not the cooking, the years, the 13 years of standing in a kitchen where no one ever asked me how I was doing, only how the gravy was. I did not say this to Daniel. I said it to myself. I said it to myself every year, and every year I went back to the spreadsheet and added the line for the ice. What changed wasn't one moment. It was a stack of moments piled so high I could no longer see over them. The week after that spreadsheet night, I asked Daniel very specifically for help with Christmas. I said, I need you to take the gifts this year. He said, sure, Lil, what do you want me to buy Mum? I said, not just Mum, everyone. I am asking you to coordinate the gifts this year. I will not be buying gifts for your family this year. He stared at me like I had spoken in a foreign language. He said, but you always do the gifts. I said, yes, and this year I won't. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, all right, but Mum will freak out if I get her the wrong candle again. And there it was. The whole family sat in the silence of that sentence. Mum will freak out. Not me. Mum. I sat with it for 6 weeks. I did not sign up for any of the planning calls. I did not sort the hats and gloves for the kids. I did not do the nibbles run. I did not badger anyone in the family group chat about their dietary requirements. I let the family chat die. On the 15th of December, Daniel asked me, "So, what are we doing for Christmas lunch?" I told him what I was doing. I was having Christmas lunch at my parents' house. I was driving up on the 23rd. I would not be hosting. I would not be cooking. I would not be buying a single thing for the Hendry gathering. If they wanted a Christmas lunch, they had a house, a kitchen, a Bunnings membership, and 4 adults who had never once been asked to peel a potato. He went pale in a way I had never seen before. He said, "Don't do this, Lil." I said, "Why?" He said, "It'll be a disaster." I said, "Probably." He said, "Mum will be devastated." I said, "She will be upset. Those are different things, and I am going to bed." I went to bed. I slept 9 hours. I cannot remember the last time I slept 9 hours in December. The 25th of December arrived. I was at my parents' house. My mother had made a beautiful roast. My father had overcooked the sprouts. We opened presents at 11. We ate at 1. There was no pavlova. There was no Pinterest fan serviette. The smoke alarm did not beep. My mother-in-law phoned twice. The first time she asked where the serving spoons were because the ones in her kitchen were all wrong. I said, "There is a drawer in the kitchen, Margaret, second from the left." The second time she asked if I had remembered to defrost the ham. I said, "I haven't defrosted anything. I haven't been in your kitchen, Margaret. I have been in Brisbane in my dressing gown, eating spaghetti." She went quiet. Then she said, "You're being very dramatic about all this." I said, "I know. It is one of my strengths." Merry Christmas. I put the phone down. I went back to the lounge. I pulled the blanket over my knees. I watched my nephew open a book about trains. My phone rang again at 4:20. This was Daniel. "Lilla, the roast is raw." "Okay." "The pavlova is in pieces." "Okay." "The kids are hungry." "Okay." "Margaret is crying in the laundry." "Okay." "Where are you?" "Daniel, I am sitting in my mother's house under a blanket with a cup of tea. I am not coming to fix this. I have told you for 6 weeks I was not coming to fix this." He went quiet. Then he said something small and honest, the way people sometimes say real things when the big things have failed. He said, "I didn't realise how much you did." I said, "Yes, I know. That is the entire problem." He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I am the most okay I have been in 11 Decembers. He said, "Will you come over tomorrow?" I said, "I will come over on Boxing Day and we will have it out. Not today. Today is for children and a roast that is too late to save." By 6:30, the family had reached a kind of collective panic I had not predicted, even in the worst of my imagining. Margaret phoned again, Tanya phoned, the aunt phoned, Daniel's brother Mitch phoned twice. The calls were not angry, which surprised me. They were confused. That's a particular kind of awful. They were calling because they didn't know where anything was. They didn't know which board to use for the cheese. They didn't know you had to take the string off the ham before you cooked it. They didn't know you had to turn the oven on. I did not answer the calls after 7. I let them ring. I watched a film with my father. I ate a piece of toast with Vegemite at 9 o'clock and felt, for the first time in nearly a decade, the particular steadiness of a person who is not going anywhere they do not want to be. Boxing Day arrived. I went to their place at 10 in the morning. The kitchen looked like a small war had been fought in it and lost. The pavlova was in 3 pieces on the bench top. There was a defrosted ham still in its plastic bag on a chair. The smoke alarm battery had been removed and was sitting on the windowsill. Margaret had made a salad of sorts with the wrong vinegar. There were serviettes folded into what they clearly hoped looked like fans, but were actually just bunched up. Margaret saw me at the door. She did not say good morning. She said, "Well, look what your little stunt did." I sat down at the table. I said, very calmly, "Margaret, nothing you see in this kitchen is my stunt. Everything you see in this kitchen is what you have been watching me do alone for 11 years and choosing not to see. I am not the stunt. I am the result." She went quiet. Daniel came in. He looked wrecked. He had slept maybe 3 hours. He said, "I'm sorry." He said it to me, but he meant it for the 11 years. We had a conversation in that kitchen that lasted about an hour. I told them what I needed, not in anger, in a clear voice. I needed them to share the planning. I needed Daniel to coordinate the gifts. I needed Margaret to stop commenting on my cooking. I needed Tanya to stop announcing performative inclusions. I needed someone else to remember the aunt's wine. I needed, at minimum, one adult in this family to ask me on the 1st of December what I was cooking, rather than on Christmas Eve where the roasting pan was. None of them said no. That's the strange part. None of them said no. They said in various ways that they hadn't known. They said they thought I liked doing it. They said they thought I enjoyed it. That is the sentence I will carry with me for the rest of my life. They thought I enjoyed it. Not one of them in 11 years had ever once asked if I enjoyed it. This Christmas will be different, not because of a confrontation, because of a conversation. Daniel has agreed to coordinate the gifts. Margaret has agreed, with visible effort, not to comment on the roast until someone asks her opinion. Tanya has agreed to bring a dish she has actually cooked. The aunt has agreed to bring her own wine. I have agreed to cook the turkey. Yes, I am still cooking the turkey. That is the part people find hard to understand. I am still doing the turkey. But I am no longer doing the turkey alone, and I am no longer paying for the turkey to be turned into evidence of how I ruin Christmas. There is a particular kind of victory that is not about winning. It is about being believed. It is about being asked the question that should have been asked 11 years ago. Do you want to do this? Would you like some help? How are you, Lila, actually? That is the thing I learned that year. The thing I had been burying under serviettes and cranberry sauce. The thing I had been buying with my own money because no one else in the family had ever been asked to open their wallet for it. You don't set yourself on fire to keep a family warm. You just stop getting the matches out. So let me ask you this. If you were the person everyone had quietly decided was the one who would do it, who would plan it, pay for it, host it, and absorb the criticism for it, and you realised one quiet morning in November that the only person standing between your family and the truth of how Christmas really worked was you, would you keep handing out the serviettes, or would you finally put the wooden spoon down?